Where is the line between reasonable autonomy and control? And how can I check in with myself to ensure I'm on the right side of that line as a submissive? Specifically, in this case, I was thinking about how I've become very adept and disciplined at taking care of my physical health, and how I would have difficulty handing any of that responsibility over to a dominant who, from my perspective, was not as healthy, not as disciplined, etc. I say this as someone who would ideally like to be able to hand this over to a dominant and trust that they will keep me on track, as opposed to someone who will make excuses for me if I don't and doesn't really have high expectations in general. This same concept could be applied to any area where a submissive feels more qualified at something. And even as I'm typing that, I can feel the discomfort of my own control creeping in. We've talked a lot on the server about healthy submission and healthy autonomy, which I feel I've developed. But as I delve into renewing an old dynamic, are there any methods you would suggest for checking in with myself around that? Does it come down to trusting my dominant and or being okay with holding those responsibilities in the name of being a healthy functioning submissive on behalf of my dominant? So the first question I have here is, and this is for all submissives, and I'm asking this question from the perspective of I've become very adept and disciplined at taking care of my physical health, and I would have difficulty handing any of that responsibility over to a dominant who, from my perspective, was not as healthy, not as disciplined, etc. Okay, my first point is, what are you willing to submit to? This is the fundamental question that all of you submissives must ask yourselves. What are you willing to submit to? I'm going to break down what I mean when I say that here in this question, but essentially it's about, in this case, what if the dominant, you're right, wasn't as adept or disciplined in the area of physical health and exercise that you are, but they were a good leader elsewhere? What are you willing to submit to? If that line is so severe where you have a high value on physical health and exercise, what do I trust you to look after? What do I trust you to look after? But it's more than that. It's what are you willing to submit to? And I say that because you have used the not as healthy, not as disciplined in terms of like physical things and health and good eating and exercise. But what if in this current season, the dominant must focus their attention elsewhere? What if typically the dominant is right on par with your level of physicality and health and wellness? But in this season, they kind of have to put that on the back burner because something else has come up in their life. Are you willing to submit to that? Okay, I feel like you may be conflating interests and proficiencies with the ability to lead. Ooh, that's it. That's where I want to lean right now. I feel like we might be conflating interests and proficiencies with the ability to lead. And that's why I'm posing the question, what are you willing to submit to? Does the dominant have to have all of your interests and all of your proficiencies to lead you well? Or can the dominant have different value in different areas, maybe not in health and wellness, but still a good leader, still consistent, still will call you out, still will hold you accountable? They're not going to go to the gym with you. They're not going to eat what you eat, but they'll hold you to it. So what are we talking about here? Are we talking about interests and proficiencies? Or are we talking about their capability to lead you and hold you accountable?